Alright, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be Volume 2 in a series that I've recently started called The War on God. Volume 1 was featuring Mr. Timothy Dolan, a cardinal of the Catholic Church located here in New York City. And Volume 2 is going to be featuring Mr. Rodgers, the superstar quarterback currently of the Green Bay Packers, who seems to have an issue with the various concepts that were taught within his quote-unquote Christian church. And as I've always told you, brothers who've been on my channel for a while, the major religions are just highly diluted versions of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. Those of us who are in the knowledge have to grasp the differences between what's stated in the Bible as opposed to what's stated in many of these churches. Oftentimes, unfortunately for them, churchgoers are the most deluded because they actually believe that they're doing the right thing. What many of them have in common is that they do not search the manuscript known as the Bible to ascertain whether or not what they believe is accurate according to the scriptures, or whether or not they're just going according to their own lusts. Through close examination, what will oftentimes be quickly discovered is that there's not much difference between an ardent quote-unquote churchgoer and someone who they themselves might call a heathen. Many times adherents to major religions, whether it be Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, etc., are very accustomed to being in the position of power whenever making accusations toward naysayers, because most naysayers and quote-unquote atheists have no knowledge of the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, etc. But for those of us who actually search the scriptures talking about the Bible, you should be able to refute the false assertions of many of the adherents or congregants of any of the three major quote-unquote religions and correct them in the spirit of the scriptures. That's the most important thing. And whether they hear or forbear, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, do not lord yourself over them, because a lot of what they believe or claim to believe is based in emotion and not empirical evidence, data, substance, etc. You'd be surprised how much confusion you can eliminate once you actually have knowledge of what you're speaking about. But just getting back to Mr. Rodgers, once again, he is the subject of Volume 2 of my series called The War on God. Why is that? Because I believe that Mr. Rodgers is actually struggling with his sexuality. It is very plain for me to see that at the very least, he's bisexual, if not an outright homosexual, most likely pansexual, because as many of his ilk are at the upper levels of the entertainment industry / sports world, he's probably a Luciferian. He probably worships the goat god. He decided that he was going to link up with his latest beard by the name of Danica Patrick, or Daniel Patrick. She obviously is a lesbian herself. And they were going to make a video basically exposing many of the issues that Rodgers has with the church system. And of course, the Bible, which is associated with the church system, but really has very little to do with the church system per se. What many of the members of these congregations do is they pick and choose which scriptures they want to apply to what matters today as opposed to what doesn't matter today. And they lord themselves over people who many times have questions about real issues that they have within themselves pertaining to scripture, not understanding that the Bible is not just a book about passion. It's also a book that is historically based. It's a book of laws, statutes, commandments, history, and prophecy. And you have to grasp the scriptures from these multitude of levels, or you're really not fit to speak about them. Rodgers is a very curious person. He most likely has been upset about the Bible and the church for a very long time because of the fact that, once again, in my view, he clearly is a homosexual struggling with his sexual identity. And he's almost ready, I believe, to come clean and confess what he actually is. About 1.5 years or 2 years ago, whenever those Colin Kaepernick protests were occurring in the NFL, I made a video about Rodgers because he was one of the athletes in the league who many people were surprised about. He seemed extremely rambunctious when it came to the act of protesting. He was at the forefront of many of the protests. He led the joining of hands with his teammates in Green Bay. And people like Greg Jennings, who was a former teammate of his, were surprised because they said that this was not the Aaron that they knew when they played with him. And as I stated in my video commenting on Rodgers and his teammates' actions, I deduced without a shadow of doubt in my mind that the reason why Rodgers did what he did is because he is a homosexual. And what homosexuals do, particularly Caucasian homosexuals, is try to cleave on to the racial energy. They're very much like the liberal black female who speaks on race topics only for attention. The Caucasian homosexual and lesbian, they will do the same thing. That's why you notice the quote-unquote female Caucasian soccer star, Megan Rapinoe, what did she do? She got down on one knee and did the Kaepernick. Aaron Rodgers is doing the same thing. Jason Whitlock is going to attempt to make the case that Aaron Rodgers has not been as successful as he should be in the NFL because he basically has confessed that he does not believe in the concept of a God, because the God that is taught or was taught in his church system was not copacetic with many of the sentiments that Aaron Rodgers believes a God should embody. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, People magazine reported that the family of Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers is dismayed because Rodgers stated in a podcast interview with his girlfriend Danica Patrick.
Brothers, please keep in mind that many MK Ultra athletes or Monarch athletes come from super religious backgrounds. So that may be the source of some of the contention between Aaron Rodgers and his family. And it's finally becoming more and more revealed that the real reason why Aaron Rodgers has stepped away from his family is because they're most likely using their form of religion to try to control him. Many of these top entertainers come from cult-like atmospheres. I'll be touching on that in the Joker video, or a portion of the Joker series that I do pertaining to Mr. Joaquin Phoenix. But once again, Aaron Rodgers and Danica Patrick, or Sharon Rodgers and Daniel Patrick, are bearding each other up. Neither one of them are heterosexual. As a matter of fact, Danica Patrick recently was divorced from her quote-unquote husband, and the word around the campfire is that the reason why her husband left her is because he kept catching her having intercourse with other women, or whatever they call intercourse in the lesbian world, rubbing coochies, I don't know.
That he had misgivings about his Christian upbringing. Among other things, Rodgers stated, "I don't know how you can believe in a God who wants to condemn most of the planet to a fiery hell."
Sounds like the lamentations of a homosexual. Why would you be concerned about a God that wants to condemn most of the planet to a fiery hell unless you know that when that condemnation comes, you're going to be one of the people cast into that fiery hell? Aaron Rodgers looks at himself in the mirror every day and says, "I'm a kind person. I'm a nice guy. I treat people well." So what if I like to play spin the bottle and it's really sit on the bottle? So what if I play quarterback but I'd rather play wide receiver? Why does God hate me? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hate him back. Brothers, when we read the scriptures, one of the main concepts that we have to accept is that we cannot comprehend on the level of the Most High. Like it tells us in Isaiah the 55th chapter, round about the 8th verse, the Most High tells us that our thoughts as human beings are not his thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. The sooner that we let go of what Pat Riley calls the disease of me, the happier that we will be. The sooner that we accept that we are not omnipotent beings and that we cannot create ourselves. Therefore, we cannot have all the answers. We need a framework. In every society, you need a framework for people to operate and exist in order for them to have sanity, and understanding that there are going to be repercussions for actions, and that I cannot do certain things because if I do, this is what's going to occur. And if I do certain things, there are going to be positive consequences. That's what's called civilization. What certain proponents of anarchy are trying to do is encourage people to accept chaos as freedom. And Aaron Rodgers is one of those people. They're going to use him, and once again, become very accustomed to this. Prominent athletes getting on TV and talking about why they don't believe in God. And Oprah did this about 25, 30 years ago. She got on TV on her show and said that she could not believe in a God that is a quote-unquote jealous God or wants to condemn people in any way, shape, or form. That's how you know that the God of the entertainment industry is the Bacchus. That is the God of emotional love. That is also the God of bisexuality and the hermaphrodite God, quote-unquote. That's also the God of cross-dressing, by the way. So it would not surprise me if Aaron Rodgers popped up on Halloween with a wig on and a long dress. Do not be shocked if you ever see that from Mr. Aaron Rodgers, because once again, it's very clear to me that he and Daniel Patrick are bearding one another up. Also keep in mind that Aaron Rodgers' consort prior to Danica Patrick was the actress Olivia Munn, who also is a quote-unquote bisexual, who, by the way, likes to go on vacation with Gabrielle Union, a.k.a. Gabriel Union. Hint, hint.
What type of loving, sensitive, omnipresent, omnipotent being wants to condemn his beautiful creation to a fiery hell at the end of all of this?
You know, brothers, the reason why the Most High, or the God of the Bible, is called our Father is because just like when we're in a household with our fleshly fathers, they do certain things or say certain things that we might not agree with when we're in our childlike state. But when we mature physically and mentally, we come to understand why our fathers said and did certain things. In the same way, from a spiritual perspective, as soon as you let go of the disease of thinking that you can comprehend things on the level of the Most High, you start to accept why things are the way they are and why they occur, how they occur. It's truly an extension of the entitlement mentality to believe that you just deserve the right to end up in the kingdom, or you deserve the right just because you were born here to live a life without problems. When people start to question why they're having problems and they castigate the Most High because of their problems, that means that the stumbling blocks that are placed in front of them, they're not learning from. They're people who are going to fold under pressure and look for excuses. In the same way that your father might create certain problems for you just to see how you respond and how you react, the Most High does the same things. So all that does, in my view, is prove his omnipotency, because he has the all power and the all knowledge to create these obstacles so that those of us here on the earth who are proverbial ants in his sight can make our way and prove ourselves before him like every good son is supposed to do to his father. If you were blessed to have a strong father in the household, you always wanted to please him and earn your keep. In the same way with the Most High, you're supposed to earn your keep and not be concerned with what the naysayers say, because I promise you, people like Aaron Rodgers go home at night and he's very depressed. Most of these Luciferians who ask these type of questions, they're always searching. They spend their entire life searching, and they end up turning to lies, more lies, drugs, substance abuse, things of that nature. But it's important that we get the true understanding by delving into the scriptures. These major religions are not going to have any answers because they're really just rehabilitation centers. That's what the vast majority of them are. The Most High did not give his chosen religion. What he gave them was knowledge, wisdom, and understanding if they choose to ingest it in his holy word. That's it.
I think Rodgers has misinterpreted Christianity and God's desire. The point of Christianity is to avoid the inevitable negative consequences of sin.
Well, it depends on what your concept of quote-unquote Christianity is. If you have an understanding of the entire Bible, both the Old and New Testament in concert, then you know that basically the Bible is the story of the relationship between the Most High and his chosen people, the initial covenant that he made with them, their breaking of the covenant, and their redemption through another mediator to initiate another covenant, the promise of dark times and a final redemption to come for those who were predestined to get the understanding and to be able to transcend the problems that will unerringly arise. Throughout our lives, we're going to have a bunch of problems, but we have to be able to rise above them to the best of our ability. And Aaron Rodgers is just somebody who the Bible is not meant for on a myriad of levels. And that's okay. A lot of people are discovering that. And I think that's very important. A lot of times brothers end up going back and forth with people who the Bible's not really meant for. And this is that time. The truth brings separation. It does not bring unity. So accept that and be happy with that. Instead of lamenting why someone who you have love for does not understand what you understand, be happy that the Most High chose you to understand it.
But I don't want to nitpick Aaron Rodgers about his understanding of Christianity. I'm inspired that he thinks about religion. He's on a journey that will likely lead him towards enlightenment, hope, and optimism. Enlightenment, hope, and optimism are pillars of success and fulfillment. Rodgers is a cynical intellectual. He reminds me of Matt Damon's character in the movie Good Will Hunting. The super intelligent often fall into a cynical abyss. Their nature can be sardonic, pessimistic, and misanthropic. Misanthrope means hater of humankind. Christianity and most forms of...
Let me say this very quickly. People who have a high level of understanding can sometimes tiptoe into that misanthropic realm, even in the scriptures. Okay? When you read about Jonah, Jonah was a misanthrope. Jonah just wanted the Most High to destroy everything and everybody. Okay? Hell, sometimes even the Most High delved into that misanthropic lane, where Abraham had to beg the Most High that if he was able to find a certain amount of people, would that mean that the Most High would save the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah? So whenever you have a high level of spiritual understanding, wisdom, or what have you, you do have to be careful sometimes, because you can look at people with a disparaging eye, with a disparaging view, like you expect negativity, because many people unfortunately revert to negativity because they just don't see a higher path or a higher way for themselves. They spend more time being concerned with the success of others rather than their own success. Therefore, they hope for others to not succeed more than they hope for success within themselves, because they'd rather pull someone else down than raise themselves up.
Are the cure for cynicism and misanthropy. It's my belief that Rodgers' cynical nature is holding him back as a football leader. Again, it's my belief that leadership and religion work together like a Big Mac and a large order of fries. Football and religion are sports' version of Thanksgiving turkey and my mama's oyster dressing. Football is best played and led by men filled with and espousing eternal optimism. Clemson's Dabo Swinney is the classic football coach. So was Tony Dungy. I don't know their level of religious conviction, but Tom Brady and Russell Wilson play with a spirit and energy.
Well, let me help you out, Jason Whitlock. Tom Brady is a witch. He's confessed that himself. He and his wife are both witches. Tom Brady worships the quote-unquote serpent, just to help you out. So it's not a science what you're saying. I understand what you're trying to get at, that when you can drink from that spiritual fount, that will help you see a glimmer of light even in a dark space, whether it be in your life or at the moment. I grasp what you're getting at, but Tom Brady certainly breaks the notion of what you're trying to communicate. And by the way, Russell Wilson most likely does too. His religious beliefs are most likely religious programming, because he was hooked up with Ciara. Ciara is a Monarch-controlled entertainer from the music industry. And Russell Wilson is most likely a Monarch athlete, but that's another video for another day.
Cynicism. A lot of people roll their eyes when they hear athletes praise God after a great performance.
Most likely because many of these athletes who praise God, quote unquote, don't really believe in the Most High. A lot of these guys who talk about God are actually talking about the Baphomet, believe it or not.
Question whether the athletes live up to their religious beliefs in all of their activities. The cynics miss the point. Religion inspires men and women to do and accomplish things they otherwise wouldn't have the mental capacity. Muhammad Ali knocked out George Foreman because he thought the rumble in the jungle was a religious holy war. My divorced mother of 2 boys worked long hours inside a factory and a second job because her faith in Jesus told her she could. The game of life and the games within sports are played best by the optimist. There's no greater supply of optimism than faith in a higher power.
I agree with that. The game of life is played best by the optimist. The optimist who utilizes tactics, though. You just cannot be a blind optimist, because you'll end up continuously running into walls that are not going to go anywhere. You do have to be a tactician as well. But once again, the issue with Aaron Rodgers is not so much his belief or lack of belief in the Most High. It's really that he understands that he has to tear down that construct to justify what's going on within him. That being that he is suppressing his actual sexual proclivities or his sexual preference per se. That's the issue with him, in my view. And of course, everything I'm saying is alleged.
Aaron Rodgers' cynical mind is holding him back on the football field. All right, Marcel, let's get us rolling. Think cynicism limits Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback and leader?
No, not at all. Preface this by saying I think it's very Christian of the Rodgers family to take issue with Aaron's spirituality, but I digress. We'll talk about that later. Attitude determines altitude. I think a lot of people take that and make it binary, positive or negative. You missed the boat. This attitude is about a belief in yourself. And if we want to stay in the Christian parallel, a faith in yourself is a faith in God because you're made in the image of God.
Not quite. Nice try, but not quite. That sounds like something that a Mason or Luciferian would say. Or one of these wokey woke niggas in my comment section talking about God is you, God is inside of you. No, not quite. When the scriptures tell us that man and woman were made in the image of the Most High, it's talking about the physical image. When the angels received the instruction from the Word to create man and woman, they were created in the image of the angels, or the powers per se. So in other words, the angels are human looking. That's why it states that. It does not mean that mankind is in any way, shape, or form equivalent with the Most High when it comes to something that you should have faith or trust in. You should believe in yourself, but you always have faith in the Most High. To a degree, you have faith in yourself as well, but faith is the ability to trust in the things that you can't see. You can see yourself, and hopefully you can see yourself accomplishing things as well. But no, that's a false equivalency, that you should have faith in yourself because because you're in the image of the Most High. No, not quite.
You want to stay in the Christian parallel. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be positive to believe in himself. He could be cynical and believe in himself. Cynical in demonstration, cynical in action. But boy, you can't shake that belief in him and his abilities. And as the world turns, the goalposts move when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, the 24th pick, who could have been the #1 overall pick, at least in his head, because he has that belief in himself. But who expected Aaron Rodgers when he was drafted on that day to become who Aaron Rodgers is right now? Go back to that day, go back to now. He passed a lot of positive. He passed a lot of people who were believers in themselves in a positive way. Christians, Tim Tebow, more positive and more Christian than Tim Tebow. I dare you to give me a name. He's passed.
Well, Whitlock could certainly make the case that Tim Tebow was far less talented than Aaron Rodgers and was actually able to make a dent in the NFL because of his alleged belief in himself. I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, once again, this entire segment is a straw man because Aaron Rodgers' beef or his issue with the Most High is that he knows that the scriptures do not accept homosexuality.
Wanted to become top 5 at worst in the NFL at his position ever. So his attitude, I think, works for him. Maybe not the way you want to digest it, but certainly he's cooked up some success.
I agree 1,000%. Whether it's cynicism or it's unresolved introspection, something is holding Aaron Rodgers back.
Rick Bucher, you know what it is. That's why you said something is holding Aaron Rodgers back. These guys, these media guys, they come on TV and they play games. They know what's really going on with these athletes.
No. As a leader of a team, yes. I had this conversation with a former Green Bay Packer. And because I noticed Aaron never is rallying the troops. You've seen it with Drew Brees. You've seen it with Tom Brady.
Because that's not his natural personality. He's not a leader by nature. He's just super talented. So at the end of the day, he expects you to rally to him because he expects you to understand that he's uber talented. Joe Montana was not a rah-rah guy either.
With Patrick Mahomes already. You've seen it with Dwayne Haskins. You've never seen him appealing to the group, trying to lift the group up. And whether it's religion, Christianity, spirituality, the whole idea of that there's a power greater than ourselves and that we are in this together collectively is something that seems to be missing in Aaron Rodgers' portfolio. The belief, because I'll never forget, in another interview, he said, after he won his first Super Bowl, is that all there is?
Much like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is another searcher who alleged to be quote-unquote Christian at first, but clearly now is an apprentice under Kyrie Irving in Hermeticism. So this is normally what happens when people are not able to be satisfied with their accomplishments. What is the point of searching out these new goals for yourself if whenever you reach them, you're never satisfied of reaching your goal? Of course, you continue to set goals for your entire life. But when people are never satisfied with the goals that they have accomplished, that they set for them, that tells me that there's a void spiritually somewhere that they're most likely going to fill with some level of idolatry, usually of themselves. That's what Kevin Durant and Aaron Rodgers have in common, in my view. They both worship themselves. So it stops them from being able to truly worship the spiritual deity, the force that controls this world, and give him his just due. And understand that you are an extension of him. It's like when the 5%ers try to run to Psalms 82 and 6 and say, wait a minute, doesn't it say that we gods in Psalms 82 and 6? The term God there means a judge or a ruler. So every man here on the earth, so-called black man, because you are the people of the book, you are meant to be an extension of the Most High. You're meant to be a judge. That's why I tell brothers, you're supposed to be an administrator in your own household. When you go to Exodus 22 and 28, it also states there that the rulers are gods, meaning judges. What that means is that what you say is supposed to go, of course, with the spirit of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You're not supposed to take advantage of your power and become tyrannical and move beyond what the Most High wants us to do and say. But understand what your power is supposed to be. But in order to execute that power, you have to have knowledge of the power. That's what makes you a god. But we're all underlings to the true and living power in the spirit world.
If the achievement of the championship was what it was, instead of, no, the reward is that you achieved something collectively that you could not do individually. That's what makes you go get another one. Let's feel this again together. And that seems to be what's missing when it comes to Aaron Rodgers as a leader.
But I appreciate the authenticity. I appreciate the fact that he is who he is.
You also appreciate the fact that you're most likely an atheist just like Aaron Rodgers. It's okay. You can come out and say it, Rich Ornberger.
But he's going to talk him down from that. And if he does have unresolved issues with his own faith or his family's faith, or questions about an omnipotent creator, I'm happy that he's expressing those thoughts, whether it be in private or publicly, because I think people play.
Well, here's the issue with that, Rich Ornberger. He's an NFL quarterback. So if he chooses to speak about belief systems, he has to be prepared that there are people who are easily confused that are going to take what he's saying as something that should influence them. And that's why I pay very close attention to the things that people post in my comment section, because a lot of people don't know what to think. And when they read certain things that are not true or that are not properly thought out, it can influence them in a very bad way. So you have to be careful. You know, everything in life that you preside over, you have to be like a proverbial gardener. You have to water your garden and provide it with light. But when weeds spring up in your garden, you have to pull those weeds out or they're going to choke up the flowers. So Aaron Rodgers is a confused person. He's never had the Bible properly explained to him so that he can have closure with it. In my view, Aaron Rodgers does not have any true closure with the concept of God or the Bible because it's never been properly taught to him. So he's infatuated with what he's been told it says as opposed to what it actually states, so that he can know without a shadow of a doubt whether or not it's for him or not. As of right now, he feels guilty about the fact, once again, that it's very clear to me that his sexual preference is that he prefers dudes. But he was raised in a religious household where he was told that it was wrong to be a homosexual. Same thing with Danica Patrick. That's why Danica Patrick set him up with that sit-down chat, because she's a lesbian her damn self.
They coach the best. They act the best in life when they are true to who they are. The same way I would be really upset with somebody who's faking Christianity or their religion and bringing God into the equation where they're just trying to expand their brand because they think that's a good look for them.
Back in the early 90s, Reggie White used to do that. He claimed that God wanted him to sign with the Green Bay Packers. And then he later on admitted that God never had anything to do with him signing with the Green Bay Packers and that he never should have stated that. Reggie White, by the way, who used to be a pastor in the Christian church, started to investigate the scriptures, learned Hebrew, and was able to read the Torah. And don't you know that he was excommunicated from his Christian church? Because once again, the church system has nothing to do with the Bible. Once you become truly interested in the Bible and what it says in the historical aspect, the people of the church and these major religions, they will feel it that what you're about is not what they're about. They're about sensations and emotions. The Bible is more about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Athletes and politicians do this. It's inauthentic.
And once again, that's why so many black men are against the Bible, because they associate it with the church system, and they associate the church system with a lack of answers. These guys have been getting dragged to church by their mothers and grandmothers from the time that they were 2-3 years old. The woman loves confusion, and these churches are nothing but harlot houses, like it tells us in Jeremiah the 8th chapter. That's all they are. People go there, clap, scream, jump up and down, get all excited, pass out and faint. But who's learning anything there? There are answers in the Bible if you open it up and read, but you have to know what you're talking about.
It's disingenuous. And that is completely, I mean, it's you're seen. When you have teammates who view you as inauthentic, you can't lead.
Right.
So there's no shot. The fact that he is who he is, and he makes no qualms about it, and he doesn't change for anybody, I think it actually encourages me to believe that he is a better leader for that, because this is who I am, accept me or not, and I'll do the same for you.
Well,
All he has left to do is come out of the damn closet.
I want you to think cynicism limits Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback and leader, yes or no?
No, I don't.
Okay, and so I think
Well, that's a bit of a straw man, because you're the one calling him a cynic, Jason Whitlock. I don't think that he's necessarily a cynic per se. I just think that he's inquisitive, and I also think that he's struggling with who he really is. The Bible is not for everybody. Aaron Rodgers has already been successful in the NFL. You'd have a better point if you were talking about a person like a Jay Cutler or somebody like that. Aaron Rodgers has been to the mountaintop. So
he has made accurate statements, but I'm not sure if we're all, because again, it's like faith in himself you talked about, and he has an extreme amount, and it's led to an extreme amount of individual success. And so what I'm talking about,
he is a Super Bowl winner. Let's keep that in mind.
Quarterback is a leadership position, and I'm talking about him as a leader. Can he inspire others with his cynical nature? Does his cynical nature and supreme belief in Aaron Rodgers, does that work for the others around him? And I thought Rick made some great points. And so all I'm saying is, as a this guy's got more talent than we've seen in any quarterback.
Well, let me say this. If we're going to evaluate Aaron Rodgers and his qualities as a leader and his ability to inspire his teammates, we have to check precedent. As I've already stated, in 2010, he won a world championship. He won the Super Bowl. A couple of years ago, he led his team on a magic carpet ride. Remember that, when he won like 10 straight games going into the playoffs, and they beat the Cowboys, and then they finally lost in Atlanta? It was the year that Atlanta lost in the Super Bowl to New England, if I remember correctly. But Aaron Rodgers has already shown that as long as his teammates are relatively healthy and he's healthy, that he has what it takes to inspire his teammates. The only question right now is he on the other side of it? And will he start to become more concerned about making attacks on the concept of the Most High than he is in winning football games, because he's moving more towards and leaning more towards, quote unquote, living out his truth, as the liberal black woman would say.
And he hasn't had the level of team success that I think people expected. And he may get out of this career with just one Super Bowl. And I think if he had the same kind of happy-go-lucky, the sky is shining every day as Russell Wilson, Tom Brady.
Russell Wilson only has one Super Bowl. Let's also understand that Aaron Rodgers was never on a team that had a defense anywhere near that Legion of Boom squad. So let's keep that in mind. And as I've already stated, Tom Brady is not a quote-unquote Christian. Tom Brady is a witch. He's a quote-unquote warlock. His wife is a witch as well. I've already done videos on that, and he stated that explicitly, that his wife is a witch.
Breeze.
Whoa. I played
really
with Tom Brady. I can speak. I mean, as far as I know, I have no idea what faith he practices.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you. I could tell you. It has something to do with worshiping something that looks like a snake. And the word starts with an S and ends with an E, and has a knack in the middle, okay? He worships the great dragon. That's what he worships. He also worships his damn wife. He also worships the goat god, okay? I hope that it helps you out, Rich Ornberger.
That's why I'm talking about cynicism versus optimism. Tom Brady's an optimistic person.
There's no doubt about it, but he's hard on his players too. And he's had more team success, so I think it's more acceptable. And if publicly it's viewed as more acceptable, and players seem to respond better to than Aaron Rodgers.
Because they know that Tom Brady, he gets chewed out also. So they watch Tom Brady get chewed out by the coach in practice or in the film study. So they say, okay, it's okay if Tom chews me out because I felt bad for him when Belichick tore him a new one out in the film session a few minutes ago.
Doesn't mean that the cynicism is what's getting in the way of leadership.
Sure, but does Tom inspire his teammates? However he may do it, does he inspire them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, 100%.
That's where my question lies with Aaron. He's good, he's gonna make you better. But does he inspire you to go above and beyond?
Well, the real question is, does he have the coach or the coaching on his team that's going to put his teammates in the right position for him to execute? All that inspired stuff, the dude is 13, 14 years into his career. Those questions have already been answered. We've already seen him win an MVP or multiple MVPs. How many MVPs he's won? He's won a Super Bowl. So let's not talk about him like he's a guy who's never gotten over the hump.
Who you are.
At his point, I mean, honestly, think of any of them. Optimistic people tend to be inspirational. Dr. Phil, whoever, Jeff Robbins, or who am I thinking of?
Oh, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are people, whether it's fake or whatever.
Well, let me say this. Dr. Phil and Tony Robbins, they make their money on the perpetually confused. People who pretty much have an idea of who they are in life, they don't pay too much attention to Tony Robbins or Dr. Phil. Those guys, they prey on people who are perpetually confused.
It come out like the sun is shining every day.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny. That's counter to football culture, which is cynical. Coaching culture is cynical. The grind is cynical. We're going to chew you up, and whoever survives that, now we got a team. And within that team, don't you ever get too high or too low. And when we haven't even killed, we're going to self-correct and find all our flaws to make us better. It's not a positive experience being a football player in terms of the mentality. When you walk off the field and you know you killed it, but now you have to be responsible for the 53rd man who didn't show up for curfew. What the hell are you bringing this to me for? That's cynical as hell, coach. And I'm telling you, Drew Brees, who I played with, is a very positive person who has the same results in terms of Aaron Rodgers in terms of team success.
Drew Brees is also a quarterback who, let's be quite frank, if he was not playing in a dome and for that coach, his career might look completely different. If you put Aaron Rodgers in a dome with that coach down there in New Orleans, that man might throw for 6,000 yards every year, or he might have thrown for 6,000 yards every year.
One Super Bowl championship, and Drew Brees is tremendously talented. What's flawed is our evaluation. The flaw is in nobody probably is as talented as Aaron, but that's the flaw. We make the equation that talent means team success. No, this is an input to a greater collective that hopefully we get team success.
Absolutely. In a similar vein, people think that just because a woman is drop dead gorgeous that she's going to make a good wife. That's not what makes a strong relationship.
Leave the sport and go to Kobe. Kobe was cynical as hell, and he inspired those guys by by either using fire to warm you or to burn you. But either way it goes, we gonna get to this. We gonna get to this mountaintop.
Belichick was a tremendous leader. Did I feel like I was being showered with optimism and praise at every turn of the hall in that facility? There were long hallways.
Yeah,
there were times where we would be walking on opposite ends of a corridor, and for 40 feet I couldn't look the man in the eyes.
You treat like... It sounds like you got treated like a $2 bitch. Bill Belichick walking the opposite way. Rich Ornberger, put your head down. I don't want to see your face. Take your ass back to the locker room. If I see your eyes again, you're cut.
I mean, fear is a very important piece of the leadership puzzle.
I believe Tom Brady's just as critical to their success. Those guys worked in conjunction very well. One guy
was the handler. The other guy was the asset.
The
bad cop, good cop.
Yeah, good cop, bad cop. I just
don't forget though, Parcells and Belichick. Oh, I hated to play for the Giants back in those days. Who's the positive one?
But I'm going to say this. The thing about faith and the truly spiritual person, even when they're in the depths of hell, they think they're there for a reason, and they think they're coming out on the other end on top.
That's very true. But once again, just to refute your point, just a few years ago, when the Green Bay Packers were struggling, Aaron Rodgers got on the radio and he said, R-E-L-A-X. Relax. That's what he said. And then he went on to lead his team on a magic carpet run deep into the playoffs. So I just don't think that the narrative that Whitlock is trying to attach to Aaron Rodgers is correct.